Hi, I know some of us are still coming because we have a really, registration, but I think I'm going to start because we'd like to hear from Dr. Kim, not, waiting too long. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Sonia Lee. I'm a specialist, reference specialist for the South Korea and North Korea at the Asian Division. I Spy a Spy, Social Anxiety in Farce in North Korea comedy film. Today's talk will be presented by Dr. Immanuel Kim. He teaches at the George Washington University in the Department of East Asian Languages and Literatures. And he is specialized in North Korean literatures and cinema. He's author of Rewriting Revolution, Women, Sexuality, and Memory in North Korean Fictions from the University of Hawaii Press, 2018, and many other articles. And I heard he's working on another book currently. There are things that seem strange if they happen together. For example, like it's a sunny day, but it's raining, something like that. So to me, this was one of them. When I heard first time from Dr. Kim, North Korea and comedy film, so really? So I wanted to hear from him more, and then I want him to talk to you, also share. So to me, that's why I'm so happy to have him today. So now, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Immanuel Kim.
All right, thank you very much. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure if I really need this mic. This is a small room, rather quaint. People are a little too close up front, I think. I speak so ardently, I often spit. And I feel bad for Sonia Lee here. I baptized her with some North Korean spit here. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. This is a pleasure, and I'm rather nervous. I never spoke at the Library of Congress, and growing up as a child, the Library of Congress is a big deal, right? Housing so many books, and so yeah, this is a big event for me. So if my voice starts to quiver a little bit, just understand that I'm extremely nervous, and the fact that there are two cameras pointing at me. And the fact that Dr. Lee told me that this is going to go up on YouTube and that my son could possibly watch this is even more nerve-wracking. So, right. Yes, North Korea and comedy films. Wow, that's a paradox in itself, right? At least that's what we think, right? I mean, how could that possibly be? North Koreans cannot laugh. Certainly not. Not in their social condition. There's no way they can laugh. Well, for me, because of their social conditions, I think it's even more plausible that they need an outlet, right? That they need something to laugh about. And so my project, my research in North Korean film, and specifically comedy films, is precisely that. It's to not only show and tell people, my audience, my readers, that North Korean films, I originally started with literature, that it's not simply a recitation of party lines, because that's oftentimes, we think like that, right? We often think that everything that's produced in North Korea is just reciting the party, right? And that there's political ideology embedded in the literature, in the film, arts, and whatever. Yes, absolutely true, of course, right? It's a politically driven institution, and the film industry is no different from the literature and arts. So yes, there's a heavy layer of ideology and party lines everywhere, absolutely. But comedy films is rather interesting, because much like other countries, when we talk about comedy, we're talking about pushing the limits. Trespassing, almost subversive. How could that be in such a stringent country where they're watching you like Big Brother? Well, within those constraints, there's room for mobility, and that's exactly what I want to share with you today. That comedy films is indeed funny, right? Even for North Koreans. And I can't go through the entire history of comedy films in North Korea because that would just take way too much time. So I want to share with you just a few films today. I titled it I Spy because the one I want to talk about today, the film that I want to talk about today, is regarding spies. The infiltration of spies in North Korea. And you might think, wait a minute, isn't it the other way around? Don't North Koreans send spies to, let's say, South Korea? There was a deep fear among North Koreans that there were spies infiltrating their own country, coming into their industrial complex, stealing ideas about the latest technology, machinery, and so forth, and taking it back to either China, South Korea, and using it. And so because of this fear, there was this film that was produced. And the entire film is about spies. I'm going to start off with a critical moment in this film. It's called Boasting Too Much. That's not a very good translation of the original title. The original title in North Korea is rather strange. But there is boasting in it, and I'll get to why there's so much boasting. But it was made in 1970s, and it stars the greatest comedian in North Korean film industry. His name is Kim Se-young. He's another Kim. I am a Kim. He's a Kim. There are many Kims in North Korea, also in South Korea. And by far, hands down, Kim Se-young is like the Charlie Chaplin of North Korea. But North Koreans don't have what we would call slapstick comedy. It's more subtle, right? And oftentimes people ask me, is North Korean comedy films, are they funny? I've seen some of them, they're not funny at all. Yeah, so the idea of humor and what we laugh at and what they laugh at, sure, cultural differences and what we find funny may not be what they find funny, and vice versa. So the comedy code is certainly different, right? And I'm going to show you a few clips, and just by watching those few clips, you're not going to find them entirely funny. But it's within the context of the film industry that I find to be rather funny. Protagonist Choi Man-ho has cornered the enemy, whom he thinks is the spy. He looks at the enemy. He knows that inside the bag, there's a gun. He knows that he's a spy, and he's going to do whatever it takes to stop him. The moment is tense. He's staring at him, and the spy is staring back at him. What does Choi Man-ho do? As the spy reaches into the bag, Choi Man-ho takes that moment, grabs his hand, and stops him from pulling out the gun. What is Choi Man-ho going to do? The spy looks at Choi Man-ho and says, "What are you doing?" There are a lot of spies, and I want to talk about some of the spies that North Korea has sent over to South Korea. I'm not going to read off all these moments where North Koreans have sent spies to South Korea, but I'll just list them here. There's one there, the Ulchin Samcheok landing, the Chunmunjin Gangwon province landing. North Koreans shoot down the U.S. reconnaissance plane, the Huksan Island landing, U.S. soldier killed by the North Koreans near DMZ, 1970 assassination attempt on President Park by the North Koreans. That failed, so they tried again. On August 15, 1974, assassination attempt on Park, but instead of killing Park, it kills his wife. Clearly, things are not working out well for North Koreans. They've sent so many spies, and all of them have pretty much failed. Here's actually a North Korean film. This is a dramatic film called Nation and Destiny that recounts this moment of the assassination attempt.
박정희 애비 박성범 놈은 통학의 집주로 있으면서 숱한 애국적 교인들을 단국에 밀고하여 처형케 한 민족 반역자 통학의 배신자이며 박정희 본인은 5.16 군사 정변 때 생명과 출세의 은인인 장도영을 체포 처형하려고까지 했으며 8.15 광복절 기념일 때에는 이처럼 자기 처를 제물로 바쳐 뒤흔들리는 독재 정권을 유지한 살인 악마이다.
So even North Koreans recount their assassination attempt, their failure. And so the idea in this film is to re-educate some of the South Koreans to inform them that your President Park is not a great man. Right? So we're going to teach you to overturn the government. This is your typical spy, and there's a whole series of spy films in North Korea that Kim Jong-il loved. Right? He really promoted this, and it's called Nameless Heroes. And it starts from the early colonial period, the Korean War period, and what a great period to use spies, right? The wartime is always a great time. And that was a huge hit in North Korea. But those are serious films regarding spies and re-education and so forth. Today's film is a little bit different. Right? This is, in the opening of the film, Boasting Too Much. It starts off in a factory, and a worker here is pasting a poster, a typical propaganda poster that we're rather familiar with. Right? And it's basically saying, let's protect the secrets of the nation. Right? With a man putting his finger over his mouth saying, shh, don't reveal the secrets. This is very typical, and it's during this period is probably everywhere, because here are some actual propaganda posters. It says here, let's increase the vigilance. 경각성. And here is a North Korean man identifying the spy in the lower left-hand corner, taking photos of the industrial complex. And you see the factories in the back. And he's pointing at him and he's saying, hey, I got you, right? So let's raise our vigilance. Here's another poster that I really enjoy. There are 7 panels here. The main one, again, it's all these lights flashing at the spy, and they caught in the big North Korean hand catching the spy, right? And with the factories in the background. But then the 7 panels are rather interesting. So in the first panel here, it says, let's lock up all the important documents in a safe. The second one right here says, basically, before you throw away even a tissue, look at it. You might have written some important information on the tissue. So there's a man looking at his tissue, just in case he wrote some factory secrets. Here's a woman again with her finger over her mouth. Shh, be quiet. All right. Here, this one over here is, when you train your intern, be careful. That intern could be a spy. So don't just teach anyone. You got to be careful who you teach. This one over here with the father and son is everyone should be vigilant, and even the child should be able to identify spies. If there's something weird, the child should be able to identify, hey, Dad, he looks like a spy. The 6th one, watch out for the beaches, because there could be an amphibious infiltration from the spies. It's like the Navy SEALs emerging from the ocean, right? So you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Right? And the final one is let's increase the security, like border patrol or something of that sort, right? All these posters, I believe, were everywhere in North Korea at the time, especially when North Korea was, infiltrating into South Korea. And there was a fear that South Koreans would also come up to North Korea. In fact, there is a blockbuster hit film in South Korea called 실미도 that recounts this, where they're training prison inmates like the Navy SEALs, right? They're training them to be like the Navy SEALs, to infiltrate into North Korea and assassinate Kim Il-sung. So from both sides, there are a lot of fear happening. Now, North Korean propaganda poster regarding spies is nothing new. Here's a Russian or Soviet Union poster. One guy is just blabbering, and the other guy is saying, hey, you might spill some secrets. Look, there might be someone overhearing what we're saying, right? Eavesdropping. Lock your important documents in a safe, right? So you wonder where did North Koreans get these ideas? Well, from the Soviet Union. There's a woman with a finger over her mouth. Even when you write a letter to your parents back home, be careful what you write in the letter. And your mother might be reading your letter to like a neighbor who might be a spy, and so forth, right? So just be vigilant, just be careful. South Korea had similar propaganda posters around this time as well, right? Be careful of, the 4 panels here, right, are all talking about the awareness of the possibility of spies in your country, right? This one is report if something is strange. And I like this one a lot. So this one says, let's be a father who catches spies, and let's be a mother who reports, right? Wow, what a good slogan. Let's be a father who catches spies, and let's be a mother who reports that. Right? So this is the opening of the film, 자랑 끝에 있으리. And for me, the translation is a little weird, so to make it very simple, I just said boasting too much. And it opens with this industrial factory. Workers are working hard, and the main character loves to boast. He's very proud of his accomplishments. He's very proud of his factory's numbers. So he's just sharing it to everyone. And that's where the comedy begins. So the most famous North Korean comedian, Kim Se-young, is the protagonist here, Choi Man-ho. His daughter is about to get married, and he's very proud of that as well. The thing is, he can't keep his mouth shut. Right? His wife is the one who's always reminding him, hey, you got to be vigilant. Don't just tell everything to people that you see. And the father, being so proud, anyone he meets in the neighborhood, he just says, hey, by the way, our company is doing this. Our factory is doing this. And the wife's always reminding him, please, be quiet. The future son-in-law, his parents are from a smaller village. And in the photo of the future in-laws, the father-in-law has a mustache. And the arrangement was that the in-laws were supposed to meet, right? The mother-in-law, the future mother-in-law, was supposed to come and meet the couple here. But of course, being a comedy film, it's not going to be that straightforward. So what happens is the future father-in-law decides to come visit the couple. In the photo, he had a mustache. The future father-in-law decides, you know what? I'm going to meet my in-laws. I want to make myself presentable, so I'm going to shave. Okay, so misunderstanding is about to happen here. He shaves, and instead of the wife going, the future father-in-law goes to see the couple. And before he goes, the youngest son of the future father-in-law says, Dad, I want a new toy gun. When you go to the city, can you buy me a toy gun? Oh, the toy gun. Okay, so the future father-in-law goes and buys the toy in the big city here. So here's the future father-in-law with his mustache shaved. And these two knew that the future mother-in-law was supposed to come. And of course, they didn't know that there was this exchange, that the father-in-law was going to come and not the mother-in-law. So they were expecting the mother-in-law to come. So they're waiting at the train station, and some other lady comes, and they misunderstand, right? They think that it's that mother. But of course, that mother, the strange woman at the train station, she's also in town to see their future in-laws, right? So all this misunderstanding is very Three's Company-esque style of film. So here's the random woman who comes, right? And once this lady comes, this mother invites the strange woman into their house. Meanwhile, these two these two met elsewhere. It's very complicated. It's very, very complicated. And in the end, he thinks that he's a spy, and he's convinced that he's a spy because he acted like he knew what was going on in the factory and so forth. So we'll see a clip here. Here's the father-in-law who visits the town. He goes into his room, to his son's room, and sort of tidies up. Looking very suspicious there.
누구요? 예.
거기서 뭐라고?
예, 저 사람을 좀 찾으러 왔다가
어디서 왔는가 말이오?
예, 저 해주에서
해주요?
예,
그럼 혹시 강철수의
예, 제가 바로 철수의 애비올시다.
예, 그렇습니까? 아이 실례가 많았습니다. 제가 철수의 장인 될
예. 그럼 이 사돈님이시로구만요.
예. 그럼 말하자면 그렇습지요.
예.
이거 실례가 많았습니다.
원천만에 그 경각성이 높은 거야 아주 좋은 일이죠.
예. 그런데 안사두님이 오신다더니 어떻게?
예. 갑자기 그렇게 됐습니다.
예. 반갑습니다.
반갑습니다,
예.
사돈님.
어서 들어오시오, 사돈님.
예.
자, 여기 좀 앉으시오.
예.
아유, 자, 어서요.
이거 정말 안 되시다. 벌써 찾아뵈었어야 할 걸.
아유, 오히려 저희가 부끄럽습니다.
뭔 별 말씀을.
It's always awkward when in-laws get together, right? Clearly, this woman is a strange woman, and she just adds to the formula of this misunderstanding, right? The main character, he's so gullible. He's easy to accept the other man's word, and that's where the confusion really happens. Now, later on, the strange woman who's staying at this person's house realizes that she's in the wrong place, and her son actually comes and picks her up.
어머니, 어머니.
아이고, 명수로구나. 어서 들어오너라.
아니 왜 여기 와 계십니까?
아이고야, 어서 들어오너라. 아네, 글쎄, 사돈님이 정거장까지 마중을 나왔더구나.
어머니, 이 집이 아니에요. 참.
이런 망신이 어디 있니? 하마터면 큰 실수를 할 뻔했구나.
빨리빨리요.
어서 가자. 아이고, 온 세상에 이런 주책이라고야. 아이고야, 그래도 주인한테 인사를 하고 가야 될 게 아니냐.
자, 이거 이 집 주인이 오면 더 망신합니다.
And so the strange woman just all of a sudden disappears, which confuses this mother here. And the husband, meanwhile, the protagonist, is meeting the so-called spy and invites him over to his house because he wants to catch him, right, in the act. He saw a gun in his bag, and he needs to find a way to catch the culprit. So they play a game of chess, a Chinese chess. And the main character is finding moments to grab the spy. Here they are playing chess, and he's just looking for that moment to grab a hold of him.
잡다니요. 뭘 말입니까?
사돈님을.
예?
이제 귀미살 하나 먹겠습니다.
이러니 재미없습니다.
여보, 와요.
이거 왜 이랬습니까? 예?
사돈님.
놓으십시오. 예?
못 냅니다.
놓으시라요. 물으잡니까?
절대로 못
물려드려요.
못 물려요.
물려드린다니까. 놓으십시오. 놓으시라요. 이거 왜? 예? 아버지.
오냐.
오랴. 철수로구나.
So it's funny because the future father-in-law took a piece of the main character, his piece, and he thinks that the main character was grabbing him and saying, I got you. And he's saying, okay, you want your piece back? All right, fine. You don't have to be such a sore loser, right? I mean, I'll give you your piece back, right? But that wasn't the main character's intent. The main character's intent was, I got you as a spy. And later on, he realizes that the future father-in-law is not a spy. And much like most North Korean films, it ends with the whole family sending the future father-in-law back to the train station and saying, oh, sorry for the confusion, blah, blah, blah. And the future father-in-law says, you know what? It's all good because you were being vigilant, just like what the poster said, right? You were trying to be vigilant, and that's a noble job. Although you failed miserably, at least you tried. For me, this film is rather entertaining because it's taking these posters and kind of making fun of them, right? Being too vigilant, right, causes problems as well. And during the time of high intensity between North and South Korea, with spies going in and out of both countries or attempting to go in and out of both countries, people are really high-strung and they're anxious about the future of their country. And I believe spy parodies like this come out to really abate that kind of social anxiety, right? To give a little laugh. And the fact that we can laugh at our own problems and be introspective of the whole political system. Kim Se-young is a very famous comedian. He's pretty much in almost every blockbuster comedy film hit. He's one of my favorite actors. And even in a very serious film, like the so-called dramatic film, if he is in the film, for some reason he just makes it really funny. And for me, the biggest hit was a film called My Family's Problem, 우리 집 문제. This came out in 1973. So Boasting Too Much came out in 1970. Excuse me. And this film came out in 1973. His career started way before. He's actually from South Korea, and he moved to North Korea right before the war. And then he just became what the North Koreans call the people's actor, 인민배우, which is the highest recognition that you could receive in North Korea. 우리 집 문제 was a blockbuster hit in North Korea. The title, 우리, means our, 집 means house, 문제 means problem. The North Koreans actually translated their own film, and the title was The Problem with Our House, which was a literal translation. And to me, that's not a very accurate translation. First of all, 우리 in Korean could both mean, could mean both our and my. The Korean language is slightly strange in that way. So you could say, hey, you want to go to our house? It's not her house, right? But it's just a cultural linguistic form there. So the North Koreans translated this film as the problem with our house. I didn't really like that translation because it sounded like the house had some termite problems or something, right? So I translated it again and I said, my family's problem. And here, Kim Se-young comes out again. And the premise of this film is the wife is the problematic wife, right? The husband is trying to do his job for the country, but his wife constantly interrupts him. And that's where the comedy ensues. Kim Jong-il did not like this film. He saw it and he said, no. This is comedy for comedy's sake. Meaning, what are we doing here? We're just going to make our people laugh? No. North Koreans should not laugh. They should be educated. And so our understanding of North Korean film probably comes from Kim Jong-il, right? Which is, hey, all films in North Korea has to be politically driven and has to be educational. Well, the filmmakers did not want to make this particular film necessarily educational. So they just released it. And thank God that they did, because the North Koreans loved this film. In fact, if you ask North Korean defectors who lived around the 1970s and were able to watch this film, they still rave about it. South Korea took a poll of defectors in South Korea, and they said, can you list the top 50 films from North Korea that you really enjoyed? This hits the top 10 list, right? My Family's Problem. But again, it was namely for comedy's sake, and Kim Jong-il did not like it. But he realized, wait a minute, this was a big hit. People really enjoy this. All right, so he commissioned the filmmakers, I want you to make a sequel. Okay, but this time I want you to embed my ideology in the film. Oh my gosh, okay, well, how do you make a comedy film imbue this kind of ideology from Kim Jong-il? What he calls the seed theory. So they're thinking, and they said, okay, you want a comedy film? I'll give you a sequel with all this political ideology, sure. But again, for me, North Korean filmmakers, they have this agency of really making fun of their own industry, making fun of the commission that they've been given. And they said, if you want us to make sequels, we'll make sequels. In fact, we'll make a dozen sequels. And here's the list. My Family's Problem first. The sequel is our next door neighbor's problem, our upstairs neighbor's problem, our downstairs neighbor's problem, our wife's family's problem, our older brother's family's problem, our sister's family's problem, our in-laws' family's problem, our younger brother's family problem. And you know what? We are all one family. And when you thought that all problems were resolved, our family problem begins again. This was a big hit in North Korea. And every time the series came out, people were just standing in line waiting to watch it. Partly because the story plot is good, sure. And we're talking about all kinds of problems. Problems about, well, first of all, marital problems. That's always a good one. Raising kids, right? Problems with raising a teenager. That's always a good one. Bribery. A factory worker is trying to bribe the upper cadre or official in having him, climb the ladder. Sure, that's a nice common one that we face here as well. Our Sister's Family Problem is probably the second favorite film, which is about the tension between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. That's a good one, right? That kind of stuff, the South Koreans eat up all day. If you are familiar with Korean drama, that's the premise of Korean drama, right? The tension between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Again, this was a big hit, but partly because of Kim Se-young. He's in every single one of these films. He's the main star, right? He's the problem solver, right? In the first film, he could not resolve his own family problems. But from starting with our next door neighbor's problem, he's the one who resolves everyone's problems, and he does it in a comical way. Additionally, I believe a lot of North Koreans went and flooded the theaters to watch these films because their favorite comedians were in these films. And a lot of these comedians, they move together, right? In other words, they have it's like a Monty Python team, right? The same group of comedians appear in these films over and over again, coming up with different issues and problems. And so I believe that a lot of these North Koreans are familiar, and they love their comedians, they love their actors, and that is why they were flooding the theaters. For me, yes, North Korea, we can talk about all the dreadful issues that they face, of course. I'm not denying that aspect of that country. But for me, my project is also, at the same time, showing that there is some life, that these North Koreans are able to laugh and enjoy their country and their favorite actors. I'll stop there, and I will answer questions if there are any. Thank you very much. I'll just do it. Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk about, I guess, Kim Jong-il was a big movie fanatic.
Yes.
And so much so that he decided to kidnap
Yes.
Shang-Lo,
Yes.
his wife, and bring them to Hong Kong.
Right.
I've not seen any of those films, but is there a comedy element or some subliminal aspects that you can portray or
Right.
pick out from that might be more South Korean interpretation that
Right.
might have been censored or not?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Good question. Yeah, so former South Korean director Shin Sang-wook was taken to North Korea, and Kim Jong-un commissioned him to rebuild the film industry. Because Kim Jong-un really knew the problems with North Korea's film industry. It was outdated. It was boring. Let's face it. I mean, despite some of the comedy films, his so-called dramatic films were very boring. And people didn't enjoy watching those dramatic films. So he he brought over the two from South Korea. And they revamped the North Korean film industry. And if you watch some of Shin Sang-wook's film in North Korea, the ones he made in North Korea, they're vastly different, cinematically different from the ones that North Koreans have been producing. You saw the action film over there with Nation and Destiny, the gunshot and so forth. That's nothing compared to what Shin Sang-wook did in North Korea. I mean, he blew up trains and so forth. So it was mega blockbuster style, Hollywood style film. He also had a lot of sexual innuendos as well. Right? And so Shin Sang-wook's presence in North Korea was huge. And a lot of the young directors really learned a lot from Shin Sang-wook. And even after Shin Sang-wook fled North Korea, some of the directors were able to, or filmmakers were able to continue that legacy. It didn't last very long, but were able to extend it a few more years before the 90s, where a lot of the films sort of reverted back to the old style of filmmaking. Yes, there's no doubt that Shin Sang-wook had a huge impact. Unfortunately, he didn't enjoy his stay in North Korea. And unfortunately, North Koreans did not continue the legacy of Shin Sang-wook. I mean, it could have been a vastly different film industry today, but unfortunately, it went back to its old style. There's a recent romantic comedy that came out, not recent, but a couple years ago. It's called Comrade Kim Goes Flying, right? Which was co-produced and co-directed with directors outside of North Korea. So they filmed it in North Korea, but Nick Bonner and another director from Belgium co-directed and co-produced this film. And there they used a digital camera. And they used a lot of animation and special effects that really changed the image and the cinematography of what we would call typical North Korean film. And when I spoke to Nick Bonner last, he said, hey, look forward to great changes in North Korean films. So I'm looking forward to them. Hopefully that they will really embrace the digital era and produce films that may not be identical to South Korean films. Absolutely not. I mean, their budget doesn't allow for that. But at least something cinematically different than what they're previously used to.
encourage children to betray their parents in terms of, spying on
Right,
them?
right.
And then my second question is about what proportion of films have the spying theme to it? Is that a big part of it?
Right. Well, those are two good questions. No, I don't. I have not come across any posters that have children reporting on their own parents. After all, North Korea considers themselves a unified family, right? Everyone's a family, so we should not harm each other. I mean, what happens in real life is different from whatever is presented in the posters. So you would always see a father, son, mother, daughter, and so forth, both pointing at the spies and both pointing at the problems in society, not pointing at each other, right? So that's one. So what percentage makes up these spy films? Well, there's a whole series called the Unsung Heroes, Nameless Heroes. It's almost as long as the My Family's Problem series, and that was a blockbuster hit. So that makes up a pretty big chunk. But other than that, no, not too many spy films. Yeah, and for me, to the best of my knowledge, Boasting Too Much is probably the only parody, spy parody. Yeah. Yes.
So is spy theme is still a current theme in North Korean films, or it was just popular during a certain period of time?
Yeah. I'm not going to say that Boasting Too Much was coincidentally made. I think it was in line with sort of the spy rave that was happening internationally with the whole James Bond, right? I mean, that was a huge craze, right? And of course, with James Bond, there are tons of spy parodies that came after that, right? So to me, this film is very much like, I don't know, Get Smart or something. It's just around that period. It just makes a lot of sense to me that North Korea would sort of jump on this bandwagon of producing spy parodies that is widely popular internationally. So it's not just, and of course, because of the tension between North and South Korea. But no, these days, no, there aren't too many spy films or spy parody films. Sorry. Yes?
Did they stop doing that for a reason, or that's my first question. Is there something hopeful that you see with filmmaking in both North Korea and South Korea?
Oh, right. So,
Bigger picture?
sure, right. So I'm not sure if there's a reason that they don't produce these spy parodies or spy films anymore. And if there was a reason, I wouldn't know what that reason is yet. There's really no talk at this point in terms of co-producing with South Korea. I think South Korea would have to do a lot more to educate the North Koreans on how to even use the latest technology, right? Film editing, sound, and so forth. So I think it would just be a real difficult time for the South Koreans to do this with North Korea. By the way, North Koreans have co-produced with people outside the country for a very long time, with the Italians, with the Japanese. So this isn't the first time that they've done this, and it's not strange for North Koreans to actually co-produce with other countries or other filmmakers. So there is a possibility. I'm not going to discount that, but the trend that I see in North Korea today is not so much on films, but on TV dramas. So I think they're really investing a lot in this revamping the TV dramas that is likened to South Korean dramas. They won't get there yet. I think it will require some time, but eventually, hopefully, they'll get there. And it's far cost-effective to work on TV dramas than films. Yes. Yes.
This has a theme of comedy, and I'm not familiar with comedy in South Korea, but in Japan they have rakugo, which is a traditional person that tells a story with humor.
Yes.
And that's kind of our stand-up comedy equivalent here
Yes.
in the U.S. Does that exist in South Korea, the traditional comedy format that people would see? And if so, do you know if that exists in North Korea?
Yeah, good question. So South Koreans have attempted to do what we call the stand-up comedy, but they don't like that. It doesn't last very long. Now, there's a resurge of stand-up comedians in South Korea today. I've seen many clips on YouTube where they're doing it not on a big stage, but in like nightclubs or whatever. In North Korea, I've seen, you might have seen a YouTube clip of a stand-up comedian there. Apparently they do have one, but I don't know how popular he is, and I don't know the reception of stand-up comedy. Yeah, it's very strange because both North and South Koreans are not really receptive to stand-up comedy for some reason, as much as I would say the United States or the UK. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned the first family's problems that the screenwriter didn't like it.
Yes.
And used it anyway. So is the film industry there kind of independent or?
No, I wouldn't say independent. Yeah, that would be dangerous to say. And I think that would just be wrong. No, so they went through several revisions. Apparently, according to an anecdote of the filmmaker, they went through like 20 revisions. Kim Jong-un said no, 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 and so forth, right? But after a while, after 20, they're like, you know what? That's enough, right? So it's not that they have this freedom to do that. I think as long as, because we're on camera, as long as they satisfy their censors, I think certain things will pass. Yeah. Yes.
One more. So, like, how many films does the industry put out, and are they generally available in South Korea?
Right. Okay. Good question. I don't know the exact number. South Korean scholars have studied North Korean film for many years now, and some even have made a whole like database regarding it. But obviously that's not complete. There are few films. There are many films that have not crossed over to South Korea, and for purchase, that's difficult. You would have to purchase it through a third party, and they're extremely expensive, by the way, for those who are interested. Clearly, I'm not selling it well, right? Right? But they're very expensive and hard to get, and many of them are not subtitled. So that's another problem. So, for example, if you look up on YouTube, My Family's Problem, in the comment section, someone says, are there subtitles for this film? And the comment below that said, contact Immanuel Kim. And I said, no, don't do that, because I don't have it. It's really hard to come by. Yeah. But a lot of them are on YouTube these days. And some of them, many of them have subtitles as well. Yes. Yes?
You probably mentioned this in the first part. I'm sorry I missed that. But then I feel like these kind of movies are reflective of a time like the 70s,
Sure.
80s. But how is the comedy like perceived nowadays? Like, do they have that aspect in their lives now? Like, can we know?
Right, yeah, so the last one I saw was Comrade Kim Goes Flying, which is co-produced with a British and Belgian producers. And it does have elements of comedy that we are familiar with and that we could laugh at. I was at a screening, and there must have been at least 100 people there watching this film, and they seemed to rather enjoy this North Korean comedy, a romantic comedy. In other words, there are familiar tropes that even American audiences or foreign audiences could enjoy, right? This film, Boasting Too Much, for me, when I watched it, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Three's Company, but it's really that style, right? Just misunderstanding, layers and layers of misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding is the comedy, right? So I don't think North Korean comedy is entirely different or unique. There are cultural references in the comedy films, but the style, structure, and trope are rather things that we are familiar with. Yes.
You mentioned they hold defectors,
Yes.
and you said that of those people who even had access to movies, so which people in North Korea have access or get to see movies? You made it sound like maybe quite a few.
Oh, in terms of movies, I believe it's open to all.
Are they free?
Oh, I don't know. Outside of Pyongyang, I don't know. So in the remote countryside or villages, towns, I don't know what the ticket prices are, and I don't know how regularly they show these films. But in Pyongyang, this is people would frequent the theaters.
Thank you. I think Dr. Immanuel Kim need to go to school. He only mentioned that before we're starting and stuff. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
for taking the time to speak
Oh,
about
yeah, thank you very much.
It was fun. I laughed a lot, actually. And then I
Good.
know now, since you mentioned it's an expensive movie, maybe I can recommend, and the library can purchase the series of You Have a Problem, My Family Has a Problem series.
Yes.
So make sure you put your name, sign-in sheet. So next time when we have an event or program, we'll let you know in that way, and hope we can see you soon again. Bye.
Thank you very much. Yes.